Good evening and welcome back to another edition of No Huddle Necessary. I am your host, Jeff Barnes, bringing you the arguments of our nuts and bolts sports writers and one special guest. So, here we are, another week of NFL action, another week of college action, and we're ready to have some debates. So, bringing in first is going to be, of course, we're going to bring in a new staff member tonight. We just had another football writer covering the Raiders for Nuts and Bolts Sports. We're going to bring in, for the first time, welcome, especially very special welcome to No Huddle Necessary, Kevin Lee. Kevin, how are you?
I'm glad to be here, join this and talk about sports like what we love to do.
All right. Well, welcome aboard. You know, it's your first week with us, and now it's your first time on the show. So you're going full dive in, man. You didn't even get a chance to dip the toe in.
No, we're jumping all the way in. I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. To the deep end you go. All right. And with that being said, we're going to bring in another, a Mountain Time Zone guy. We're going to bring in, of course, the man with the most famous name on Nuts and Bolts Sports. That's right. We're talking about Mr. Keith Richards. Keith, welcome.
Hey, we're gonna have to talk about you putting me on with these division rivals. Some time in a row.
Hey, listen, I can't control it. You know, listen, you should have been on. The boss got called off, so you know, the new guy stepped up, and then we're gonna have a great show, man.
At least I don't have to be on with Thomas this week.
I think we wore Thomas out last week. Well, we have a special guest this week, and it's not a first-time guest because the last time he was on, which is his first time, he won. So we're going to bring in Mr. Daniel Goodwin III, Mr. Chicago Sports. Daniel, welcome back. Welcome back.
Glad to be back. I'm excited. I'm amped up for this. I'm ready to roll, man.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth because guess what? We're going to roll right into the first quarter. You know, 2020 has been a rough year all around, but it's been really, really rough for Takk McKinley. You know, here's a guy who was a first-round pick of the Falcons, came into this year looking to have that big year. Got started off with a couple of sparks and then got hurt against the Cowboys, missed a lot of time, came back, got hurt again. Atlanta decides, well, you know what? We're moving on next year. We're moving on without you. They waive him. Cincinnati takes a chance on him, doesn't pass the physical, cut again. So, question for you guys is Takk McKinley done for 2020? Somebody else going to take a chance on him? Or is it just going to be see you in 2021? So, we're going to start this one off with Keith. Keith, all yours.
Well, I mean, technically another team did take a chance on him. 49ers claimed him yesterday. But if you look at his stats over, I think this is his fourth season in the NFL. So he's played in 49 games, only started in 25. He has 4 forced fumbles, 79 tackles, 22 of those are for loss, but only 17 and a half sacks, 4.5 of those coming in the last 2 seasons. I mean, even if you account for the injury that he got this year, he still has yet to record double-digit sacks in the season. He hasn't started in a lot of games. He could have failed his physical because he still has a lingering injury. There was no mention of that, so it sounds like he just failed the physical because he failed the physical. To me, that says he has a lot of talent but not a lot of effort. If he can't be successful in this defender-friendly 49ers system, he will be done for 2020 and might be done forever if he can't be successful with the Niners, who literally everyone, including Towel Boy, gets a sack for. You can't be successful pretty much anywhere else.
All right. Yeah, you know, as much as I would love to change that question, it went out before he got picked up, so I had to stick with it. But nevertheless, you know, interesting that he ends up in San Francisco. I know he had a groin injury, and usually if you're injured and you're going to a physical, you're usually going to fail. Cincinnati obviously didn't want to put him on the roster if he wasn't going to make it through, so I kind of understand that. But Nevertheless, we're going to move on to the newest writer on the staff. We're going to bring in Kevin Lee. Kevin, come on in. Your turn.
Well, Takk McKinley did get cut from the Falcons and the Bengals and claimed by the 49ers. I do think that he will play this season. There's 5 games left for the 49ers. And I mean, with that team, they're like decimated with injury. So once he gets healthy from the groin injury, he will get a chance to play. And of course, his potential out of college was he's going to be like a sack master, get a lot of sacks. He hasn't had that yet. But I mean, the 49ers have been a place where people have revived their career. The latest one, Jason Verrett from the Chargers, has been hurt like 2-3 years in a row. And then Richard Sherman, another one that came coming off an Achilles injury. So it is a place for him to revive his career, and he will get chances. I mean, it's not going to be the biggest chance. There's only 5 games left after the season, after this week, which he won't play, but he'll get a chance for Kyle Shanahan. And Kyle Shanahan, I've seen in a report, said they won't cut him even if he failed the physical with the groin injury. So I think he will get a chance. And his career isn't over yet, but it's coming too close soon. So he has to use this whole 2020 to revive his career.
All right. Coming up swinging. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So we're going to bring in our guest, Daniel. Daniel, close this one out for us.
Well, I'm going to start by saying that Takk McKinley is far from finished. He's 25 years old. He's a defensive end in the NFL. He's got speed. He can rush the quarterback. He got 6 sacks as a rookie, 7 as a second-year player, and it tailed off from there. But you got to realize where he was playing at, what system he was playing in. He was playing in Atlanta, and I live in Atlanta. I follow the Falcons, and even though I'm a Bears fan, I follow the Falcons, and I know what's going on there. And that was a disruptive situation there. The defense was always behind the 8 ball. They had a lot of injuries, and he didn't really have anybody showing him the ropes. As a young guy coming in, was he top guy? No, he wasn't top guy, but he has a lot of talent. He's raw, you might say. And he really didn't have somebody to really take him under the wing and kind of help him along. He's going to a situation, he couldn't go to a better situation, you might say, in San Francisco. That might be the ideal situation for him going forward. So I think he'll revive his career pretty easily there. I see him making some impact this year, matter of fact, once he's able to get past the injury situation. And once he's able to do that, you know, who knows what's next for him down the road. But like I said, he's too young. He's too talented to say that his career may be cut short because of this injury. I think he'll get past it. He'll move on. And being in the right system is really going to help him blossom into something much better than what he has shown while he's been in Atlanta.
All right. Good arguments, fellas. Way to start this show off. Yeah, I mean, as a guy who evaluated McKinley, I liked him a lot. I thought he was gonna have a bigger impact. A little inconsistent. Still had some issues with technique, using the hands properly, and then the injuries. I think the perfect storm was the situation in Atlanta this year, where, let's face it, the team underachieved. The head coach is gone. The GM is gone. They're not married to anybody on this roster. They couldn't trade him for anything. Nobody was going to take him, knowing he had the groin injury already. You know, I think the best thing is he ended up in San Francisco. If he gets healthy enough to make an impact this season, I think that he may end up in San Francisco for a little while. I think they're going to try and reclaim him, and so you can get him on the cheap. You're not going to pay him a big-time contract. So, listen, that's a great reclamation project. And then they can still draft guys if he doesn't show up. So, kudos to the San Francisco 49ers for making a wise business deal. So, first quarter's in the books. Let's move on to the second quarter. Oh, AB makes the news again. And not for the good reasons that we would see on the field. So yeah, he had a quality game last week for the Bucks, but he makes the news once again, now being investigated, and the NFL is also investigating as well, for destroying a security camera and throwing a bike at a security guard. So the question is, what is the over-under that he lasts the season? All right. So Daniel, you're going to start us off on this one.
But the only good thing, the only saving grace for Antonio Brown is that he came into the season at the tail end of the season, right? We're 10 weeks in. He's only been around for 2 games. So he only really has to last through a half of a season. I don't think he'll be able to do that, though, to be honest with you. The situation is fluid. It's evolving as we speak, you might say. Bruce Arians is already tired of talking about it. You see, what he said. I'm done talking about it. Doesn't want to talk about it anymore. And you got to look at the situation with AB. Is he worth what the trouble he's going to bring, right? He had 7 catches, 69 yards last week. He had 3 catches, 31 yards the week before. So through 2 games, 10 catches, 100 yards, averaging about 10 yards per catch. Is that really worth the problems that he's going to bring and the baggage that he brings along? That's the question that I have. And I believe that he's on his way out sooner rather than later because of that. They have a situation in Tampa Bay where they don't need him. He's not a necessity, right? You have a ton of talent on that team. You have a lot of balls that you can pass to other players. And you have a lot of good players in there that can step up and take his catches away from him easily and move on. And I don't think they would really skip a beat. There are some receivers in the league where if you got rid of them or they were able to fall off of a roster, the impact would be felt. But in this situation, the impact of him leaving the roster or them cutting him or waving him and saying goodbye to him, I don't see it being that big of an impact for them. AB is talented, no doubt, right? But the baggage that he brings with him is too much to carry. That's number one. And then you look at his age, it's a 1 year, prove it type of deal. And when you have this type of situation, the good question would be is if he disclosed this situation to them before he signed the contract, right? Before he got in the door. That would be my question. If that's the case, then maybe they're okay with it. But I have to believe that if they did not know about this situation and it's now coming up and the fallout is happening now and they were clueless to it, I would venture to say that they're not pleased with it. They're not happy with it. And, there's probably some rumbling and talks going on behind closed doors, of course, that, hey, maybe we should look for a way to get rid of this guy now.
All right. Kevin, come on in. Tell us how you feel about the subject. AB, over under, he's still there into the season.
Well, I had Antonio Brown on the Raiders last season. He did not play a game, so that name has been with me for a while now. But, we went a couple weeks without any bad news about Antonio Brown, so I don't know. We lasted that long, and now we got this news about the security camera and the bike. But I do think he will last the whole season and it will become a bigger asset to Tom Brady because at the end of the day, Tom Brady needs him and he wanted him for a while now. I just think Tom Brady has so much weight to this. I know that Bruce Arians says if he keeps doing bad things, we're going to let him go. But I think that they see that he's very valuable. He's only getting started, I think. Even last week's game had big catches. I think he's only going up. If he doesn't do anything past this incident, then I still think will be on the team, have a big impact. And the biggest thing at the end of the day is it's Tom Brady. Tom Brady wanted him. He stayed in Tom Brady's house. Like Tom Brady will hold the biggest weight to this because he wanted him, he got him, and he's going to keep him there if he doesn't do anything worse.
All right, good stuff. Listen, I wouldn't have moved him into my house if I was Tom Brady, but that's just me. Keith, close this one out.
So I set the mark at 100%. Over under, will he make it the rest of the season? At 100%, I said I'll take the over. He's not going to make it the rest of the season. As Dan said, he's always been, from the moment they signed him, a luxury for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're talking about a team that has Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, LaShawn McCoy, Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, Mike Evans, Rob Gronkowski, Cameron Brate. There's only one ball. You can only throw it to so many people. And mostly all of those guys that I've listed really have not had the problems that Antonio Brown has had. Whether or not this incident happened, he still has a pending trial, I think, in December about an incident that he was suspended for the 8 games. So he may have been suspended or dropped after that. And then he threw this on top of it. It's just another one of those sad situations where a player has all the talent in the world, but they can't get their act together. I don't think they ever should have signed him in the first place. I think I've said numerous times Antonio Brown has something going on in his head and he needs a lot of help. He doesn't need to play football right now. He doesn't need people trying to get the most they can out of him. He needs people trying to help him. And I could see where you can make the argument that football and being on the field does help him, but it doesn't seem like it is at this point. He can't get over himself, whatever he has got going on. There's no guarantee that nothing else will happen. Bruce Arians is trying to say he's been a model citizen, but I don't know how much I buy into that. I think he maybe lasts another game or two before the Twitter mob gets a hold of the Bucks and they drop him.
Yeah, I've said it before. I think Antonio Brown, and he's a guy who had some character issues coming out of college. There were some attitude problems, but for the most part, up until the last 2 years he was in Pittsburgh, he was not a major problem. And it wasn't until he started getting that talk of, he's one of the top receiver in the league or one of the top 2 receivers in the league. He got the big deal. He wasn't happy with the big deal after a while. The biggest thing for some people to struggle with is success. He didn't handle success very well. It went to his head, and he has never recovered from it. And at some point, he's going to have to realize just because you're Antonio Brown doesn't mean you're immune from everything that goes on. So I think, whatever the situation that caused him to flip out on the security guard, I don't know what it is. They've been very tight-lipped about the whole situation. You just know that it happened and it's being investigated. What's next is the question. Because there's going to be something else. There's going to be something else at this point. At this point, we've seen something is going to set him off, no matter what, whether it was the baby mama, whether it's the girlfriend, whether it's a security guard, whether it's the personal trainer, whether it's the personal chef. Something is going to set him off. So the question is, what next can really be? I mean, at this point, if Tampa's going to keep him now, say after he's only been there a couple of weeks and he's already in trouble, what do you think would be the straw that tells Tampa Bay, okay, you know what, it's time to really cut bait with this guy? Anybody, you can just jump in on that one. There's no specific. This is open discussion.
That's the thing. Well, I mean, what can you say? I mean, if it doesn't, something has to break the camel's back, right? Some straw has to be there, right? Yeah. At some point. And with him, it's bound to happen. It's just gonna happen. And like you said, I mean, you can run down through a litany of different things. It's not just like he has an issue with this one person or that one person. He has issues with several different people, and they manifest themselves in so many different ways, and it could be at the drop of a dime. You know what I mean? So you never know what this guy is really thinking, what's going through his head, and that's what you got to be on guard against. You have a babysitter right now. Tom Brady is actually babysitting this guy. You know what I mean? So. Yeah. At what point is Tom Brady going to be tired of babysitting, or is he going to is he all in? I'm going to babysit him throughout the rest of his career, or what? What's going to be the situation? So, it's a fluid situation, but I think it'll end up ending sometime soon. I don't think it'll last the year at all.
I think the one thing that gives me pause is the NFL has a problem of playing players they should not play. Whether it's Antonio Brown, whether it's Josh Gordon, whether it's Aldon Smith at a certain point before he goes to the Cowboys, or names of players you can name, they shouldn't be on teams, but they're on teams. If you have talent, you will always have a chance to play in NFL. You would hope that after all the backlash they suffered with Ray Rice, that culture is dissipating, but there's really no indications that it is. I mean, he should be done, but there's always the chance that someone like the Cowboys or Raiders will give him a chance.
You want to say something, Kevin?
I mean, you kind of just gotta hold your breath every week with Antonio Brown and just like once you get through the week, you're like, okay, that's 1 week down. But I mean, I hope nothing ever happens. But it's a waiting game, and Tom Brady's just like, okay, we just give me the Super Bowl, and then after that, you can do whatever you want. I think Tom just wants that Super Bowl, and that's why he's gonna hold on to Antonio Brown as long as he can.
You want to know the real reason why? He's still in the league. And Cap isn't, and I know Monty put that up there, but it's not just Cap. You can go to Ray. You mentioned Ray Rice. Ray Rice had that one discretion. You never saw Ray Rice in the NFL again after that. He got his money. They paid him basically to go away. And that's what happened. Whenever you want a player that has some kind of character flaw to go away, if he can't play himself off the field, if he's that ultra talented, just give him a reason to make the league lose money. He will disappear fast. Okay, Kaepernick. Reason why Kaepernick's not in the league is plain and simple. And I've said it several times. I've talked to some executives at times, and they've given me different reasons. But the one reason why Colin Kaepernick is not on a roster, and it's plain and simple. Season ticket holders and corporate box subscribers will pull their money out if he signs with certain teams. They've said it. They've proven it. And that's the reason why every time somebody talks about signing him, they start going, I will give up my season tickets. Personal seat licenses sell what pay for stadiums. They cannot afford to lose season ticket holders. They cannot afford to lose corporate boxes, corporate sponsors. But they can't afford to lose the casual fan that watches on TV. So if you buy the direct TV package, they don't care. They'll replace you easily. If you just go to the bar and watch, they don't care. They'll replace you easily. Those things are the things that cost them money. Those are the guys that matter. So when they say, you sign Kaepernick, I'm out, they listen. All right. So speaking of signing and listening, it's halftime. So we're going to go to a quick commercial, and we'll be right back. The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports Store is officially open. Log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com. Get yours today. And we're back just like that. And we get ready for our third quarter question. As right now, we have a pretty tight contest going into the second half. So, with that being said, let's get started on the third quarter. I have to turn my headphones down. That sounds like Independence Day every time it goes off. All right. So, third quarter. It's all about the running backs for the third quarter. Got a lot of young rushers who are playing very well right now. So, you guys are going to sell me. Who do you think out of this group is the hottest running back in the league right now? We got Josh Jacobs for the Raiders, who's been killing it ever since he got into the league. All right. Dalvin Cook. Well, when he's healthy, there are very few that are better. And then, of course, the guy who was playing well before he got injured came back this week and single-handedly closed the game out for the Browns. We're talking about Nick Chubb. So, all right. It's time for Kevin to start us off. He hasn't started us off yet. So, Kev, start us off for the third quarter.
Out of the best backs, the ones that you just listed, I got to go with Dalvin Cook because he has 954 rushing yards on the season and has 119 rushing yards per game, 4 games with 2 touchdowns or more. And he's like the main focus of the Vikings offense because they do have Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, but if he doesn't go, then the offense doesn't go. And Josh Jacobs has been inconsistent this year, even though he has good games. There were some games where he just didn't show up. Nick Chubb, I can't say him because he's missed about 4 games being on IR. He just came back, so I can't say him. Dalvin Cook, I mean, he's the Vikings offense, and he's had a couple games with he had a 200-yard game, 3 touchdown game, 2 touchdown game. Like, he's the one. If he gets them going, then I mean that's why they're winning. They beat Green Bay. Then he had a 200-yard rushing game. So Dalvin Cook is on fire right now. And when he's healthy, I mean, he will get most of the carries, and he produces the most right now.
All right, good stuff, man. You leaving a lot of time on the clock. You sure you want to punt the ball already?
I mean, I said what I needed to say.
All right. Well, we're gonna bump on over to across the division. Keith, come on in.
Initially, I wanted to give Chubb some more credit because he has missed some time. But simply, I had to break it down by the numbers. So Josh Jacobs has 182 rushes at 3.8 yards per carry for 700 yards, 8 touchdowns. Nick Chubb in 5 games has 76 rushes at 6.1 yards per carry for 461 yards and 5 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook on 8 games has 174 carries, 5.5 yards per carry, 954 yards and 12 touchdowns. I think if Nick Chubb had not gotten hurt, it would be a closer conversation, but not to any fault of his own, he got hurt, and Dalvin Cook has been killing it ever since he first touched the football this season. Yeah, you can make the argument that he is the focal point of the Vikings offense, so he gets more opportunities, more touches, but the difference is with those touches, with him being in the spotlight, he still probably overperformed what people thought he would do this season. I mean, everyone knew Dalvin Cook was good. No one thought Dalvin Cook would be as good as he has been so far this season. And that's not a front to Josh Jacobs or Nick Chubb. I mean, I'm a Broncos fan, but even I appreciate how well Josh Jacobs has played since he's coming to the league. But as far as this season goes, like right now, Dalvin Cook is the best running back in the NFL.
Okay, everybody's dropping the hammer on Cook. I like it. Daniel, close this one out.
Well, I mean, those gentlemen made some really good points there. I mean, you can't argue the numbers of what Dalvin Cook has been able to do. He even put up 96 yards last week against my Chicago Bears. So he's able to put up numbers. He's doing that very well, and I give him all the credit in the world. 12 touchdowns. That's something that I don't think you guys mentioned, but 12 touchdowns is outstanding at this point in the season. He's on his way to, possibly plus 1,500 yards, plus 18 touchdown season. That's going to be incredible. I also look at Josh Jacobs. I look at Nick Chubb as well. Nick Chubb came back from the injury, and it's like he didn't miss a step, right? He had a wonderful game last week. He had a good game the week before that as well. He's getting back into the groove of things. And Nick Chubb, since he's come into the league as well, I mean, the numbers are off the chart. He's averaging 5 yards per carry, in his sleep, you might say. He could wake up, roll out of bed off of an injury and get 5 yards per carry easily. So you got to give him credit there. When you say you just got to pick one guy, I look at Josh Jacobs as well. Josh Jacobs, 8 touchdowns on the season, 700 yards. And true enough, his average is not up there as high, but you got to look at the situation that he's in. In Las Vegas, sometimes they're running him 30 times a game, 25, 27 rushes per game. The ability that he has to be durable in that situation, to be durable when they're running him that much, man, that speaks volume as well to me. So I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs because of that. As of right now, he seems more durable than those other two guys, and he's playing very consistent. He's playing very good football. I'm not taking anything away from Dalvin Cook. I think he's probably, when healthy, probably the best running back in the league, but when healthy, right? Same thing you could say for Nick Chubb, when healthy. And I'm a person who wants to see the guy go out there, and your availability is always your best ability, in my opinion. And a lot of people say that as well. So I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs because of his durability factor and the fact that they put so much weight on his shoulders. Like I said, he's got games where he carried the ball 25 times, 27 times, 31 times. Those type of games are you're not going to break off 5-yard runs in every single game. So no wonder his average may be a little bit lower than most because they're going to, you're set out to just pound the football, those numbers are going to be lower than a person who's, more balanced in attack, right? So with that being said, I'm gonna go with Josh Jacobs on this particular argument.
Okay. So 2 for Cook and 1 for Jacobs. Wow, nobody bid on Chubb, huh? Well, I'll tell you what. All 3 are playing well. I mean, we've seen Dalvin Cook now for a couple of years. As long as he's healthy, he's phenomenal. But listen, man, Nick Chubb not only played well, but he came in, and when that team couldn't do a darn thing, he not only did he finish the game, he literally finished the game because he could have scored the touchdown, put him ahead, and let the defense come in. He says, "No, game over right now. I'm stepping out of bounds at the 1, kneel it down, game over. We're going home." Right? So not only did his talent take over, but his brain took over as well. Something you don't see out of a lot of running backs because everybody else would have been doing an end zone dance at the end of that run. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Chubb this year, yeah, he's missed the games, but overall, when that guy is on the field, to me, if he ain't equal to Cook, he's just this much better. But overall, I love all 3 of those guys. Listen, if I have an opening on the team and I need a running back, any one of them can play for me. So, 3 quarters down, 1 to go. It is time. And we are very ahead of schedule, so we're going to have a lot of time to talk at the end of this one. It is time for the 4th quarter. So, 4th quarter time. And we're going to talk some college football for the 4th quarter. Everybody knows we're rounding out towards the end of the college football season, if Corona lets us. And there are some teams up there that usually aren't up there. One of them is this one. Much to the chagrin of Monty, the Irish are in the top 6. They're number 2. And I don't see this team in the top 6, so we're not even going to bring them up anymore. But nevertheless, the top 6 teams, of course, Alabama's number 1. Florida, last time I checked, was number 6. So out of the top 6 teams, which teams do you think are going to wind up missing the college football playoff? All right, so in no particular order. We're going to start this one off with Daniel. Daniel, start us off.
Well, you got Alabama, you got Notre Dame, you got Ohio State, Clemson, Texas A&M, and Florida. I'm going to say Texas A&M will fall out. I'm just going to be honest about it. I don't think they are on that level with the rest of those teams. The teams like Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson. The big it factor for me is going to be when Notre Dame ends up having to play against Clemson again. It's very hard for a team, especially in college football, to beat another team twice in one season. Notre Dame has beat them one time, but it's a rare situation where teams just, you just go in, you back and you dominate it again, right? I see it all the time, in Texas. I follow the Texas Longhorns, and they may beat Oklahoma at the Red River rivalry. They don't call it shootout anymore, but rivalry game. And then they come back to the Big 12 championship game and they get the doors blown off of them. So it's a hard situation. I think Notre Dame is up to the task. I think they're playing at a really high level. And if they can stay consistent, stay patient with what they're doing, I think they'll beat Clemson again. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard to do, but I think they can do that. I think Texas A&M falls out. I think with that second loss, Clemson may fall out, and I think Florida will also fall out, possibly. They're only 5-6 games into the season, so they still got a little ways to go. Some of these other teams are, sitting at 8-0 and 7-1 and things like that, and those teams kind of have the upper hand because they're so far along in the season. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Ohio State, I mean, they're like as long as you got Justin Fields and you throw him out onto the field, they're pretty much in every single game. They're going to win a lot of games. And then Alabama is Alabama. It's Nick Saban, it's Alabama. If COVID doesn't catch up to them at some point, I think they'll be in the top 4 as well for that playoff positioning as well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Kevin, come on in. Kevin, it's your turn. Which team do you think out of the top 6 are going to fall out?
So, I mean, first we got Bama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Clemson, A&M, and Florida. The teams that'll win out are Bama and Ohio State. They'll get in. Then you got Clemson that'll win the ACC championship against Notre Dame. They'll stay in. And I think Notre Dame, with that one loss, if they don't get blown out and make it look really bad, they'll still be able to catch that number 4 spot. And you got Texas A&M. They still have Auburn on the schedule. And even if you win out, you're not going to go to the SEC championship. And you already have that one loss to Bama by 28 points. And for Florida, they already beat Georgia, which was a great win. But they'll face Alabama in the SEC championship game. And I think they will lose that game. So that's a 2-loss team already. And those Texas A&M and Florida will not make it. Those top 4 are going to stay where they're at right now. I mean, they'll switch up some orders, I think. I think Notre Dame will end up being at number 4. And then Clemson will go 3, Ohio State 2, Bama stays at 1. But A&M and Florida, they will not make it because Texas A&M will have 1 loss on the season, but they still have Auburn on the schedule, and it's just not going to be enough. Florida, they'll lose in the SEC championship game, and the top 4 will stay the same. And those are the teams that are going to make it.
Straight and to the point. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So, Keith, you get to close this one out, man.
So me, I'm going with the Aggies and the Irish. Notre Dame is only going to have 1 loss this season, I think, which isn't bad. They did beat Clemson in that game, but it was without Trevor Lawrence, and it took I think it was double overtime. I picked that winner, by the way, just to remind everyone. But if Trevor Lawrence is back, assuming he can stay off the COVID list, I think that the Irish are going to suffer a loss so bad to Clemson in the ACC championship that they will get knocked out even with 1 loss. Just because, whether we want to admit it or not, college football is a game of optics. It's what you see and what the record says. The record might say 7-1, but they're going to get beat so bad by Clemson in that ACC championship game that they're not going to look like a 7-1 team. As been brought up already before, I think the Aggies are going to lose to the Tigers, or not the Tigers. They're going to lose to Auburn. Well, I guess they're Tigers as well. They're going to lose to Auburn when they play later this season. And really, so that'll make them a 2-loss team. And there's an interesting dynamic to where neither Cincinnati or BYU are going to make it to the college football playoff. But they're playing so well in comparison to them, and comparing Texas A&M to Cincinnati and BYU, they're just not going to look like a playoff team compared to the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Clemsons. And I think if Notre Dame can keep it close with Clemson, they might be able to make it into the college football playoff, but I don't think they're going to keep it close. So really the 4th team might come down to a Cincinnati or BYU. But we all know they love the SEC, so even if Florida has 2 losses, if they can keep it close and competitive with Bama in the championship game, I think they will be more apt to put them in at number 4, assuming Bama is number 1, just so they can have that 3rd game, because it's all about ratings and money. So I think the 2 teams that are on the outside are the Aggies and the Irish.
Wow. So you're telling me Notre Dame somehow goes undefeated to the ACC championship, faces Clemson. They get smoked. Florida has 2 losses. You're telling me they're going to put a BYU and Cincinnati over a 1-loss Notre Dame at that point, who split with Clemson?
I said maybe. They gotta do it at some point. If there is a year for them to do it, this is the year to do it. Just because, I mean, we can only go by what we've seen teams play, and there haven't been a bunch of teams playing. It's not a normal season. We've seen unusual things happen, and an unusual thing would be for a BYU or a Cincinnati to make it. I mean, if they don't think they don't deserve to be there, put them on a field and prove it. Prove they don't deserve to be there.
I will tell you what, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't know why. I don't know if a one-loss Notre Dame misses the playoff, and I'm going to tell you why. Because of that win against Clemson, I think is going to give them a lot more equity than normal. Number two, the fact that they played a full ACC schedule this year, unlike most years where they're independent, so they don't give them the conference bump. All right, they're going to get the conference bump this year because they played. They're a temporary member of the ACC, so that's going to get them in. As long as they get that one loss, if they go undefeated, it's automatic. But if they get that one loss to Clemson, even if it's a bad loss, they'll just say it's the second time around. But you split. All right, so they'll get in because of that. I think the schools you're going to have to watch out for, or of course, there's that fourth seed. Okay, whether it's Florida, whether it's A&M, even Georgia. Georgia isn't done yet. Right? So, yeah, they isn't done yet. But
I got an interesting scenario that could happen.
All right.
If Florida loses to Bama in the SEC championship, but it's really, really close, back and forth, that is, even if Florida loses, that's something to consider. But if Clemson beats the brakes off of Notre Dame, I'm talking about bad, which all think will happen, then that's something to consider right there.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the hard part is they're going to get that conference bump this year. Normally, Notre Dame, if you think about it, they go, oh, yeah, well, they're independent. They don't play in the conference. They can load up their schedule. And it's funny, usually if you look at their schedule ranked compared to the SEC and ACC teams, their schedule is always ranked at A+ because they're independent. And no, Monty, I'm not going to let you say Pac-12 teams. They're starting too late, and most of those teams aren't looking too good. So they will not get in. No, Monty. I'm disqualifying Pac-12 teams this year. but no. But honestly, I think that's the one reason why Notre Dame gets in. What they do with it, on the other hand, is up to Notre Dame. Honestly, if they get in and they blow dog again, listen, let's just face it, they deserve it. But overall, Notre Dame will probably get the bump because they're in the ACC, and like I said, because the win over Clemson the first time, regardless of the Trevor Lawrence was there. Okay, had they lost to Boston College the week before they played Notre Dame, right? Then the Notre Dame win over Clemson wouldn't matter as much. Because they would say, oh, well, they didn't have Lawrence either two times and they lost without him. The kid played well in both of those games that replaced Lawrence. So well enough for them to win both of those games. So they'll get the bump because of that win and because they're playing in the ACC. All right. I've talked too much because it's time to say some FaceTime for somebody. We had an ultra-tight contest. So with that being said, it's time to award a winner. All right. So the rule of thumb goes when we make the eliminations at the end is the Ricky Bobby rule. If you ain't first, you're last. So in no particular order do you get bumped to the back. It's all for drama. All right. So going to the back first. Oh man, this is tough, man. This is tough. And it's so close that even making it dramaful doesn't even make it that much as dramaful as the score makes it. But anyway, I'm leading on too long. All right. So Keith has been a multiple-time winner. Kevin's the first time on. Daniel came on once and rocked it and took home the title the first time. And he will not be repeating. Sorry, Daniel, you're going to the back tonight. So it's down to two of you, the West Coast teams, the AFC West. The writers for the AFC West are in the final two.
Give me some Broncos sympathy.
Yeah, I could. Although you didn't have much sympathy for the Irish in that last segment, so I should take a point away. Hold on, let me deduct one here. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, I picked them to win.
With that being said, is it going to be the first timer? It's going to be the veteran. First timer veteran. First, and the score says it's going to be the veteran, Keith Richards, for the win. Hang in the back, Kev. We'll be back in a minute. All right. So Keith gets another win. We get to play the graphic one more time. So, I love that. I love Keith Richards. That's my dude, man. He is the wackiest dude in person. A heck of a guitar player, and just a character. You look at him.
He just may never die.
He might not. The amount of alcohol and drugs he's consumed in his lifetime, he may live forever. But anyway, it's not about this Keith Richards. It's about this one. You got your 3 minutes of FaceTime. So therefore, I'm fading to the back. It's all yours. Have fun.
All right, now I got the opportunity. I got to talk about what's going on with the Denver Broncos. Before the season started, I picked them to make the playoffs as a wild card. But the season never really truly got off the ground. We lost Von Miller for the season. We lost Cortland Sutton for the season. And since then, numerous players have been out for several weeks due to injury. The team itself is very talented. I think with the right leadership, they can be a playoff team, a dark horse Super Bowl contender. The problem is they don't have the right leadership. We're all excited about Vic Fangio being hired as a coach, and he just is not working out. Pat Shurmur is not working out as an offensive coordinator. The defense is actually pretty good. They're the number one ranked red zone defense in the NFL, which is why they're able to stay close in games despite how terrible the offense is for 3 quarters. The real problem with the Denver Broncos, and not being a Colorado native, I know I'm going to get flack for this, is John Elway. You have to look at it logically. The person hiring the Vic Fangios, the John Foxes, or I can't even remember the other bad coach, Vance Joseph. If the person hiring these people are hiring the terrible people, I don't understand how you can keep John Elway with his job when he's the person hiring all these players that suck, all of these coaches that suck, or he's running the organization. There is some blame to be put on the situation with the ownership that's in flux. They need to handle that as well. But even with the ownership is what it is, it's time for John Elway to go. We appreciate the 2 Super Bowls he won as a player, the one that he won as a president, but it's just not meant to be at this point. He is running this team into the ground, and quite frankly, everyone here in Colorado is tired of watching it.
Wow. Bringing the fire for Elway. Well, I got a question for you since you're talking about Elway. I mean, granted, Pat Bowlen, rest his soul, is gone. Elway's been leading the franchise. Would you be okay with him bringing in the GM and just running the organization for the Bolins?
I mean, it depends on what his duties are. If he has decisions and drafting players, no, I don't want him running the organization. I mean, if you look at his history, if you look at that one amazing free agency period they had when they got Peyton Manning, they got Aqib Talib and a couple other players, it's just been going downhill since then. I mean, with the drafting of Paxton Lynch, the drafting or the playing of Brent Osweiler. We don't call him Brock because he doesn't deserve that name. Trevor Siemian, I mean, it's just been bad quarterback after bad quarterback after bad quarterback. And for someone who's supposed to be a quarterback guru, he keeps picking really bad ones. And that's not to say Drew Lock has played great this season. I think Drew Lock has places he can improve. But you see when Drew Lock has time to throw the ball and the offense is running as it should, Drew Lock can be, I don't know if I want to say elite, but he can lead a playoff team. And he's just not given that opportunity because they refuse to fix the offensive line. So if he's not going to fix it, he's got to go.
Yeah. And I like Locke. I think he's your franchise quarterback, honestly. I just think that you miss Cortland Sutton because he opened things up for Judy on the other side. Your tight ends are going to be phenomenal, which between Noah Fant and Albert O, those are two excellent tight ends, excellent young tight ends. And your running backs are pretty good. You do got to get better on the offensive line, but overall, I think the biggest mistake he's made has been head coach. Okay. I appreciate him for giving Vance Joseph a chance. We want to see the young black coaches get that chance, whether they pass or fail. Kudos to that. Granted, Nick Fangio's been an assistant for a long time. Sometimes when you look at an assistant like that, you say, why has this guy been an assistant for this long and never been a head coach? I think you're seeing why now. Because Fangio is a heck of a defensive coordinator. Nick Fangio, heck of a defensive coordinator. As a head coach, you're seeing it. He just lacks overall team cohesiveness. He doesn't have the offensive mindset for the offensive side of the ball. So when those guys are struggling, Pat Shurmur, let's face it, quality guy, over-promoted. But, head coach has been his downfall for Elway.
I agree with that 100%. I think Vic Fangio is an excellent defensive coordinator. And if you guys get rid of him there and let him come back to Chicago, because I would rather have him because our defense was aggressive when he was there, and now it's a bend but don't break. So, let him come on back if he can. But he's crazy. I mean, he's an old crazy guy, right? He's just gonna say stuff and rub people the wrong way. That's his biggest issue. But if he was just coaching defense, you guys would be set with it.
I mean, defense is not the problem. I mean, even with Von Miller out for the season, the defense still has been really good. And you have to give 100% of that credit to Vic Fangio. But we need someone to run the offense, and that's not Vic Fangio.
Yeah. I agree.
If you look on the other side of that division, there's a Raider team that's doing pretty well that nobody expected to be this good.
I didn't expect it.
Well, listen, I love the fact that Darren Wallace caught fire. Like I said, there's a kid when he came out of Georgia Tech. I liked him. I wanted to see where he ended up and when he had his struggles off the field. And I was saying, man, what a waste of talent because this kid had it. He's come back with the Raiders, and he's been everything you want. So I think the Raiders have a very nice young nucleus. How far that nucleus goes will be up to Chucky.
And this game on Sunday, that's that could shift things, or that could just be like, the Raiders are just that game. But if we win that game, then
I don't think they're going to be the same Chiefs team that they beat earlier this season. It might get ugly.
Well,
I don't know.
It gets interesting when it comes to division rivalry. Sometimes you'll have a team that goes on to be a Super Bowl contender or even win a Super Bowl, but they have that one team they couldn't beat this year. If you think back, there's been times where Super Bowl champions gotten swept inside their own division. You think of the 1995 Cowboys. Washington won 4 games. 2 of them were against the 95 Cowboys. All right, so
I remember that team.
Yeah. So think about that. The team went on to win a Super Bowl, beat a very good Pittsburgh team in the Super Bowl, but they couldn't beat Washington twice in the season. All right, so sometimes division games are just like that. But I tell you what, the Raiders definitely took the fight to them when they beat them the first time. So I'm in their own stadium. So the fact they're going to go to the Raiders' house this time, we're gonna have to see what happens.
I think last time I was here, I said the Raiders are sneaky good, and they snuck up on a lot of people. They're a really good team, and I give John Gruden, because he got killed when he first came there, right? And he started making trades and he started doing things. Him and Mike Mayock, I give them a lot of credit because they turned the roster over. And to turn a roster over that fast, that quickly, and let it be productive on the field, that speaks volumes as to the knowledge that they got for the game of football.
And I wish Thomas was here, but guess who's been a great player for the Raiders? Nelson Aguilar. Who thought of that? No one picked Nelson Aguilar to have a good season.
You want to know the funniest thing? It actually is a saying of an old Raider coach, and it applies right now to Derek Carr. And that is, John Madden used to say, winning is the best deodorant. All right, think about coming into this season, people were throwing dirt on Derek Carr's career.
Yeah. I was. Yeah.
All right. They're not saying that now. They are not saying it now. So winning is definitely the best deodorant. Well, a lot of matchups to look forward to. There's some people probably watching us and peeking in at the Thursday night game. Very entertaining game, by the way. So I hope y'all are enjoying it. Looks like a carbon copy of the last time these two teams met, where they went into overtime. But what matchups y'all anticipating for this weekend?
I think as an AFC West guy, it has to be the Raiders and the Chiefs. That team or that game holds a lot of implications, not only for the conference, but for the division as well. So the Chiefs got to win this game, or they're at risk of not being the number one seed in a conference, and they still have to play some tough games against the Broncos and the Chargers. So if they lose 3 and the Raiders lose 3 and the Raiders beat them twice, then they're not going to win the division.
I mean, this game could make Derek Carr the MVP favorite not favorite, but one of the top guys if he does well and wins. I mean, this game is for the seeding, and if we sweep the Chiefs, then people are going to think of us as a team that could go deep in the playoffs, not just making it, because this team has offense already, that's good, but the defense is slowly coming along too. So if we win and show a good showing to the audience, and this team could go far.
I'm gonna go with Indianapolis and Green Bay being a game that I want to watch this week. I think that'll be a nice matchup. Indianapolis is good against the defensively, they're really good. Of course, Green Bay is Green Bay offensively. You got Devontae Adams if he's healthy enough to play. I'm not sure, and of course you got Aaron Rodgers. So I mean, it's going to be a nice game to watch, and you'll be able to gauge what these guys are able to do against each other. Top talented teams.
Well, I'm going to sum it up in 2 gifts. You ready? This is how I want my weekend to go.
Oh man!
This is how I expect my weekend to go.
X-Raider.
Oh man, that's how Amari Cooper has looked all season.
He's looked like that for several seasons now. It's very rare I see a smile or anything. It's usually that same face, which is I want to punch him in. It's like, dude, could you show a little more life to that?
A little bit more.
It's like, come on. Especially when you make 2 plays and then run to the sideline.
I don't know what it is with that. Man.
He's a hard player to coach, and I didn't see it before. Now I see why Gruden traded him. That is a hard player to coach. That guy, no matter what you do, you get this.
That's it. That's it.
And then when you get him in the locker room or something, he's smiling, carrying on. Then you get him on the sideline.
That should be the opposite.
Yeah, and it's like, how do I know if this guy's really playing? How do I know if he's intense? How do I know if he's happy? How do I know if he's sad? How do I know if I want to throw a Gatorade bucket at him? I don't know what I want to do with this guy right now. I mean,
You need one more gift for him. You need that one from Zombieland where Woody Harrelson's wiping his face with tears of $100 bills. That's what Marty Cooper does every night when he goes home.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, I mean,
as a Raiders fan, there have been some frustrating moments with him.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm frustrated now just looking at this.
Expect that for a lot more.
Yeah.
You could put that and we may say, you know, what game did that come from, and you could just choose one of many, you know.
Every week.
Give it a preseason.
All right. I'm going to squeeze. Yeah. Thomas is giving it to me from the chat room. All right. So I squeezed Thomas in one more time before we break out. So, guys, I'm going to bump you to the back so we can sign off. All right. So one more episode in the books. We'll be back at our normal time next week. I hope you enjoyed the NBA draft coverage last night presented by Nuts and Bolts Sports. And I know those guys worked hard on that, so I know they were quite exhausted today. I know when we bring you the NFL draft coverage, I'm ready to pop champagne when it's all over. It's so long, and we work hard on that. So, and speaking of draft coverage, we'll be coming with more of that this year, so you'll enjoy what we have in store for you. But as of right now, this is Jeff Barnes for No Huddle Necessary and the Nuts and Bolts Sports Network, signing off. See you next week. Once again, back on Wednesday night, 9 p.m. here on the Nuts and Bolts Sports Network. Take care and have a great night. The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports Store is officially open. Log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com.